motherfucking money, nigga, believe that. Gotta make this money, man. Gotta make this money, go my elbow anywhere till I die. Big money, this money, man. Gotta make this money, go my elbow anywhere.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wrestling Rants and Reviews. As always, I'm your host, Big Mike, and this is episode 88. However, it's video 99. I'm one away from the milestone of 100. So I don't know when I'm going to get to that video because I want it to be big. I want it to be special. I want it to be huge. Because, you know, some people don't even make it to 10. Some people don't make it to 50 before they're like, oh, you know what, I had enough of this shit. I'm out of here. I'm done on YouTube. I don't know anymore. I don't have any more fucking ideas. Blah, 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 blah. When there's too much drama, people don't last. You know, then there's people out there like a 500, 600, and that's great, because one day I want to be that good too. Or at least get that many videos. But enough about me and my video making, or lack of, or whatever. This is 99, leading into 100. However, it's episode 88, and you're all like, what's the difference between episodes and videos? Episodes is, like, right now I'm going to go and give a response to MuggerBaby talking about wrestling in the 90s. Was it great or was it flash in the pan? Or when I'm talking strict topics, you know, other videos like the commercial for the IWWS or just other random out there videos aren't episodes, I guess. They're not major topics, you know. Whether I'm saying sorry about drama, or if I'm asking for ideas, excuse me, you know, whatever. So there is a difference there. Call me cuckoo, but maybe there isn't, but to me there is. But anyways, moving on to my response to MuggerBaby, the leader of the IWWS, the group that I'm proud to be a part of. You know, if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. I know I plug it a lot in all my videos, but definitely check out the IWWS. We're going through a bit of a flat line right now, but things are going to start rolling again, I hope. People are going to start doing their shit. And things are going to be more on a regular basis. But enough about that. My response to Mugger on wrestling in the 90s, was it great or was it a flash in the pan? Well, the 90s to me, and as they were to everybody, they were a great time. But why were they a great time? That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the reasons why they were great. And probably why we won't get back to that era. They were great because everything was innovative. Everything was brand new. You know, when we've seen Warrior and Hogan title versus title, to the majority of us, that had never been done before. So that was new. The hardcore stuff, that was new. Because, you know, unless you're a hardcore fucking tape trader and seen all the Japanese death matches and stuff, you know, seeing ECW and other hardcore matches, that was new. Like I just saying, all the ideas in the 90s were fresh and original. Unlike now, where everything seems to be recycled. You know, they've been done before, and even if they were done half-assed before, maybe they're better now. Or maybe they were better done there in the 90s and they're only half-assed now because of the whole BG thing. But in the 90s, everything was new and original. Since the Elimination Chamber, I don't think there's been anything original for the WWE. Maybe the Money in the Bank, but however, it's still just a ladder match. However, Elimination Chamber is still just a Hell in a Cell. You know, there's nothing too original. Unlike over in TNA, actually, you know, they had the King of the Mountain match. That's original. You know, for all you guys like, hey, TNA, whatever, that was original. And it's a pretty decent concept, too, and a pretty decent match. If you had never seen King of the Mountain matches, check it out. 2007 was one of the best ones. But anyways, in the 90s, wrestling was great because there was even characters. You know, from the early to mid-90s, you know, you still had your characters. You had your tugboats and typhoons and earthquakes and you know, Max Moons and Aldo Montoyas and Salvatore Sinceres. And, you know, even had the Bushwhackers still for a while. Sergeant Slaughter, $1 Million Man. All these were still characters as far as, you know, instead of just being wrestlers. You know, until we moved up to 96, 97, we still had the odd one, but, you know, that's what made wrestling in the 90s a little bit better, too, is the characters. You look at wrestling now, everybody's cut out of the same mold, and you'll be like, no, they're not. Look at Brodus Clay, or look at Big Show, or look at Undertaker. They're not out of the same mold. Yes, there's exceptions to those type, but you look at everybody else, they're all muscle, 6'2", short brown hair. Even Dolph Ziggler's now a generic fucking robotic out of the same mold type character. You know, they all look the same, and that's WWE's fault. You know, back in the 90s, you had differences. You had Takamichi Nukos and, you know, whoever. You know, the oddities were even, you know, for crying out loud. You know, draws, the headbangers. You know, you had differences in characters. Another thing that made the 90s great, you know, like I said, you had stiff competition with WCW. So you had stuff to play off of. So you had to one-up each other. And then mentioned ECW, brought the hardcore style, ladder matches, TLCs, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that stuff was all new too, innovative because it was obviously not PG. All that stuff was new and innovative. What else can I say? Everybody on Raw was utilized. They weren't just jobbers. You know, there was the odd jobber, but I mean, right from the curtain jerker to the main event, everybody had their role. Whether you're a Crash Holly trying to hold on to the hardcore title, you know, under the 24/7 rule, that played a major factor on Raw. You know, that was some exciting things. Right to censor, you had groups. You know, everybody was in, you know, you had groups, you had right to censor, you had Nation of Domination, you had Los Boricuas, you had DOA, you had fucking DX. You know, you had all these groups. And that made for interesting TV, too, because there was a lot more feuds and a lot more people involved. Right from the time the show started till it ended. You know, you had Steve Blackman and Al Snow who formed Head Cheese. You had the Godfather and the Hose. You had more memorable things. This is what, 14, 15 years later for some of it, maybe even 10, 12. But you still remember Steve Blackman. You really do. 10 years from now, are you going to remember MVP or Evan Bourne unless you're a hardcore wrestling fan? You know, because you know he's not going to be around forever. Daniel Bryan, for instance, for all you guys that don't watch Indies or don't like ROH, in 10 years, are you going to remember who Daniel Bryan is? No. But here we are, this many years later, we can still remember Crash Holly, you know, or Steve Blackman, or Dolga from the Oddities, or, you know, whoever. Bull Nakano, for instance, you know, and naming females. You know, everybody played a major role. Everybody got their, you know, their spot on the card. Unlike now, you know, everybody's buried and they're focused on the top stars. You know, so I don't think, I'm going to say for a mugger that it was great. The 90s were great. And it was still a flash in the pan. Because you're not going to get back to that. You're not going to get back to those eras. And it was great for what they done. You know, ECW was great. If it wasn't for ECW, there wouldn't have been a lot of stuff going on in WCW or WWE/WWF. You know, ECW was a stepping stone for people to do things, to get noticed in a national market. You know, Benoit's, Malenko's, Guerrero's, Mysterios, Saturns, whoever, Taz's, Sabu's, you know. Because a lot of these, like Sabu, he was mostly an FMW over in Japan, you know. So if there was no ECW for him to have a platform, who would he have been? Mike Awesome's, Masato Tanaka's. All them people would have not have been noticed if it wasn't for ECW. So like Mugger said, there's a lot of great things that happen for certain reasons. There's a lot of great memories, you know, right from WrestleMania 6, you know, Hogan Warriors, WrestleMania 7, Slaughter, Hogan, you know, whatever. There was always something going on, you know, whether because it was character driven or attitude driven, you know, or innovative, you know, there's always something there to remind us of the 90s. You know, wrestling was over in the 90s. You know, you couldn't turn the TV on. You'd see people on the 70s show. You'd see Bret Hart on The Simpsons. You'd see fucking, you know, just people everywhere. You would see wrestlers on shows, Baywatch, you know, because wrestling was over in the 90s. You don't get that now. And that's that. However, there's one thing, and this is where you guys are going to kick me in the nuts. Yes, some of the wrestling was better, but there was just as much wrestling on Raw then as there is now. And you're all like, what? Raw was awesome for wrestling. No, it wasn't. There was still just as much, or lack thereof, wrestling. Because Austin had a promo, The Rock had a promo, DX had a promo, Nation of Domination had a promo. You know, then you had your backstage vignettes. So there still was just as much wrestling on TV then as there is now. It was just more compelling because of the storylines, because of the attitude that drew us in. You know, however, they did step it up. They did perform better on their pay-per-views. You know, that's when they performed. Unlike now, you might get one good match on a pay-per-view. You know, and it's usually the least expected match, you know, you wouldn't think, you know. So, yeah, the 90s, great. And flash in the pan. You're not going to get the 90s back. So share some. If you got the DVDs, do it. Keep them. I just wish I would have kept more of my VHS tapes, because now with technology I could have put them to DVD. But I dumped all my VHSs because I didn't want to have a fucking VCR anymore. I got sick of it fucking being blurry and fucking losing the tracking on it and shit. But yeah. WWF, WWE, WCW, ECW. Even the stuff we don't know about or didn't know about so much was the Japanese style wrestling and everything else. Was great. So much better in the 90s. I think I proved my points. I may have repeated myself a lot. But that's what made the 90s memorable. We won't get them back. You know? So, whatever you're watching out there today, whatever your wrestling company of choice, be it WWE or Ring of Honor or TNA or Chikara or whatever. You know, we all know that we watch WWE, even though we hate it and say we'll never watch it again. We still watch it because we have hopes. You know, that's what we grew up with. You know, that's why your grandma still watches The Young and the Restless, because that's what you grew up with. You know, whatever, you know. So yeah, really don't know much more to say. I've said it. It is what it is. You're not going to get it back. So keep your memories fresh by watching tapes and DVDs. So that's Big Mike right here, signing off for Wrestling Rants and Reviews. The next episode I do will be 89, I think. Because this is 88. But it'll be show 100. Or video 100. So expect something semi-big. I don't know what to do to celebrate. But I don't know how long it'll be before I get back to doing it. You know, how long it'll be till I get that video up, because I want it to be somewhat special. But you can still see me every day on the IWWS channel for This Day in Wrestling History. As for now, things may be changing with that. We'll keep you updated. So until then, I'll see you on the flip side.